Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 4 of the Halloween ornament tutorial. This is the Halloween ornament that we are making. It is so cute and spooky. And today we're going to be making the unit called Small Bats. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3 yet, that's okay. You can do these out of order. I'll have those videos listed down below in the description. That way when you finish this one, you can go back and watch those. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have purple lined crystal, opaque black, opaque yellow AB, and silver lined orange. Just to keep this simple, I'm going to call this purple, black, yellow, and orange. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire thread in the color crystal, and this is a 4-pound thread, but you could also use a 6-pound thread. And then I like to use a size 10 beading needle. You could also use a size 11 or a size 12 if that's what you prefer. For implements, I like to use my long nose pliers to hold on to my thread at the end of the video, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then today I'm going to show you how I use the fire method to end the tail. So let's thread our needle with 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So I've threaded my needle and now I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 3 purple beads. Now I'm going to take these beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of the thread, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Now let's make a square knot, which means we're going to cross over on top and pull the tail through, and then cross over on top again and pull the tail through. So now you have 2 loops. Let's put our fingers in the bottom loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then we're going to tug on the tail thread and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Now let's take our tail thread, and we're not going to touch it to the flame, but we're going to get it super close so it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this teensy little knot. So now let's put our fingers back in the loop, and while we're pulling on the long thread, we're going to twist the loop until the knot on the end of the tail meets the long thread. Now let's take our thumbnail and pull that knot all the way down to the beads, turning the beads into a teensy little triangle. And that completes row number 1. If you notice, the knot is kind of in the center of the 2 beads. Let's tug the long thread until the knot looks like it's coming out of one of the beads. And it also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead. Now we're ready to pick up our next 2 beads. Let's pick up 2 purple beads. And it looks like we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the bead that it looks like it's not coming out of. Then let's try to get our new beads to sit right on top of the beads below them. I like to call those the buddy beads. So our new beads are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up 2 more purple beads. I almost said pink. There's no pink in this design. Okay, and we're making sure that those beads are sitting right on top of their buddy beads. Now let's pick up 2 more purple beads. And we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to sew through the next bead, and we're also going to sew through the buddy bead below it. When we sew through 2 beads, that means that we're stepping up, putting our thread in position to start the next row. So making sure that our beads are sitting right on top of their buddies. We've completed row 2, and now we get to start row number 3. Let's start with 2 purple beads, and we're going to sew through the next. Now let's pick up 1 purple bead, and we're coming out of this second bead right here from the top. You'll notice the 3rd bead is set downward a little bit. We're going to skip that 3rd bead, that downward bead. We're going to sew through the up bead, that 4th bead. Now let's pick up 2 more purple beads, and we'll sew through the next bead. Now let's pick up 1 purple bead. We're going to skip the down bead and sew through the up bead. Let's pick up 2 purple and sew through the next. And now let's pick up 1 purple. This is the last bead in this row. So we're going to skip the down bead. We're going to sew through the up bead and the bead below it. So sewing through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 4. Let's pick up 2 purple and sew through the next. Then 1 purple, sew through the up. 1 purple and sew through the up. 2 purple and sew through the next. 1 purple and sew through the up. 1 black bead and sew through the up. 1 black and 1 purple bead and sew through the next. 1 purple and sew through the up, and 1 purple and sew through those last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 5. Let's start with 2 yellow beads this time. Then 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 black, 2 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 2 yellow beads. One yellow, one purple, one purple, one purple, two purple beads, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, two purple beads, one purple, one purple, one purple, and one yellow. Sewing through the last two beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 yellow beads, one yellow, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, two purple beads, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, and 1 yellow. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we have actually reached the top of our triangle. So we are not going to sew and grow our triangle up higher, but we are going to grow it on the sides by adding beads to the sides. So the next thing we're going to do, without picking up any beads, we're going to just sew through that next bead. Now our thread is in position to start adding our 8th row. So let's start by adding 1 orange, 1 yellow, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 yellow, and 1 orange. Now we have reached the top of our triangle again. So what I like to do is just turn the triangle over, and now we are in position to start row number 9. Let's start by adding 1 yellow bead, 1 yellow, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 yellow, and 1 orange. Now if you notice, there is no up bead to sew this last bead into. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to sew down that top bead, and then we're going to make sure that our new bead lands in place. Now we're coming out of the bottom of this top bead right here. So let's sew down 1 more bead. Then coming out of the bottom of this bead, we're going to sew up the orange bead that's right next to it. And then we will sew up that yellow top bead again. And then we can sew down the new orange bead that we just added. Now let's turn our unit over. And now we are in position to start row number 10. Let's start with 1 yellow, 1 yellow, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 black, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one yellow, and one yellow. Now we're back up at the top, so let's turn our unit over, and now we are in position to start row number 11. Let's start with one orange bead, one yellow, one purple, one black, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple and one black, one black, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one black, one purple, one purple, two purple beads, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one purple, one yellow, and one yellow. And once again, we don't have an up bead to sew through on this last bead for this row. So what we need to do is sew down the orange bead on the top, then sew down the orange bead right below it, then sew up the yellow bead right next to that one, then sew up the orange bead on the top, and down the yellow bead that we just put on. Now let's turn over our unit, and now we are ready to start row 12. Let's start with one orange, one yellow, one purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 black, 1 purple, 1 purple, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 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 1 black, 2 purple beads, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 yellow, and 1 yellow. Now we are back up at the top of our triangle and we've completed all 12 of our rows. So let's turn our triangle over and now we can continue adding our connection rows. In this particular unit, we're going to add connection rows on this side and on the bottom, but we are not going to add any on this side. So let's start by adding 1 yellow, 1 orange, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, 1 purple, and 1 purple. Now up on the corner we're going to cap it by adding 1 purple bead, and that turns that corner into a point. And now let's start adding our connection beads along the bottom. Let's add 1 purple, 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 and 1 purple. Now we're at this last corner, so let's add 1 purple bead to cap it off, turning it into a little point. And now let's turn our unit over, and we will sew up 6 beads without adding any more beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now I'm going to do what I like to call a zigzag. The zigzags make the beads that we just added, the last few beads, extra secure so they won't get loose or fall out. So we're coming out of the top of this bead. We're going to sew down the bead right next to it. Then we will sew up the bead right next to that one. That zigzag really does help secure those last few beads. Now let's sew up 2 beads, 1 and 2, and we'll do another zigzag. We're coming out of the top of this bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it, and then sew up the bead right next to that one. Now we'll sew up 2 more beads, hiding our thread, and I feel that these beads are extra secure now that we've done a couple of zigzags, so now we can cut our thread. Let's hold on to our thread with our long nose pliers, and then get our scissors as close as possible to the bead without cutting the bead, and just snip off the thread. And that completes our number 4 unit. We only need 4 of these for the project. 5 of these for the project. So let's do them 4 more times, and then I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.